넘버링게 상월이야 지루들이 샤이
Good afternoon, everyone.
An alle hier einen herzlichen guten Nachmittag.
다나 공도 되네. 단 고문 주바 단 제베 단 고문 주비 주림스마 단 대단 제베 단 먼저도 주시스메 단 딩치르 차리야 민주베게 다 지기 냠렌다 땅 하나 게란 잡아 가르쳐요. 디도리아다 누리 가져온 지슈아 디도스버레샤.
So in terms of the stages leading up to the Abhisheka itself, I had an opportunity this morning to share some remarks about Akshobhya in terms of the background of Akshobhya and the meaning of Akshobhya. So having completed that stage, I would like to use this afternoon's session to share some remarks with you about my own personal connection with this practice.
따들이야 또 데베 로 가시 가들다 데베로 가시 그저나 다 어쩌면 그뒤는 장가지야 갈 가버서 간다 데베로 더 주차 지 파지 링리아 드네 도시된리아 그냥 긴게 도시된라 로다르 아니 알람 사지 드네 최저기 제고 드네 치야래 드린주산단 데베 루주링리아 파지 그유 말람 걸리아 데네 초간냠는 차르 지지 고츠네 나다바도다 가서 민주비 초가디 냠는 차데 유마셔버지 드리셔브레
I would say for the last 10 years or so, in Bodh Gaya at the Kagyu Munlam, and as you know, the Kagyu Munlam is an annual ceremony of Dharma practice that takes place in Bodh Gaya. I would say that for the past 10 years or so in Bodh Gaya, starting about 10 years ago, we have had a custom that has continued in an unbroken way from that time until now of doing the Akshobhya practice together at the Kagyu Munlam.
Wir haben diese Übung dort, diese Zeit, diese Tradition ununterbrochen weitergeführt.
Um, Diliadne Gobdi Dene Minjubi Shaw Yamrichua Gumzen Jidi Dene Zo the Simjin Selindeva Choga Mizeti Zuche the Mini that Gezaru Saku Givezar Saw Chegu Yuzana that's all the Zuche the Me Dene Minjubi Choga the Dongers. More uncle. Seems telling them not to. Yes?
The main purpose or the main people in mind that we focus on during these performances of the ritual of Akshobhya every year at Kagyu Manlam is people who have died. We especially bear them in mind and make them our focus and accumulate roots of virtue in order to benefit them and dedicate the merit of the virtue of our practice of Akshobhya to them especially. So this is the main focal point of the Akshobhya ritual that we do.
Rindustan Tomara, the good you monum leadene, Midrube Choga, Yamlincha, Chedu, and to the research of Cheche. Jig Yamlincha, Tori, and Yamshir of Cheche. And Dana Shingi, Midruba, and Jeveki Do Sutra, the Nemambuchi. 다 고급춤으로 되네 양 수트라 가시 부이 나는 맵체 나가모네 야나게 돌아 유대바 다드제 부이 돌이야 출 규르 아지 규리하게 베즈르 체체 딘데 체인주산 딘데기다지 규림섬으로 딘데기 망보지 제비 인주산 디 나라래야 and Kalikali, she Minchube Goliaji, Susuinaji, Junseji, that Gu of Rabjeta, and Dana Shingi, Chonang, Cherundra of Chosums.
So at the Kagyu Menlam, through practicing the ritual in this way and in connection to the practice of the ritual, I had the opportunity to do some more extensive research about Akshobhya. So the performance of the ritual of Akshobhya was the trigger for that. And similarly, the performance of the ritual of Akshobhya led me to investigate the topic further by reading sutras that were connected with the figure of Akshobhya. And some of these sutras, in turn, had not made their way into the Tibetan language, but only existed in Chinese. And therefore, I initiated some projects to translate these sutras from Chinese into Tibetan. So in these and other ways, I feel that gradually I've had the opportunity to become more familiar with the figure of Akshobhya, as well as to feel a more complete or a deeper feeling of connection towards Akshobhya.
지금 전환을 치슈에 가라서는 다 당의 어느 다음 고번 민주바 이제 민주바 대 토마르 다 상계 민주바 토마르다 개놈 민주바로 이제 규베 내가블라 되네 지금 디네 손데 근데 상계 뭐 마다고 봐도 심진 술래야 다 지 컨트롤에스 삼바다 시당 삼바지 민사로 다 디기 명람 전부 직답 나와 다 디기 아란리아 디스 바자당 지게 다 질름도 좀 좀을
In terms of my strongest personal feelings or experiences about in connection with learning about Akshobhya, I think that the tale that left the greatest impression on my mind was that of the bhikshu who became known as Akshobhya that we discussed previously. This courageous bhikshu who stood up in front of the Buddha Big Eyes and made the strong aspiration pledge and commitment to never bear any ill will or aggression towards any sentient being, no matter who they are, from then until the time he was to attain enlightenment. I think that this story has left the strongest impression on my mind.
ndene chanchu mathab gi pardo saade tuzudi hajang rimbu chariya
One of the reasons why this aspiration is so striking to me is because from the time that Bodhisattva made until the time that he actually gained was a very, very long time.
According to Buddhist teachings or Buddhist that number sangye begi shiru de shabina chanju samba wangbu nobu de zui enji sangye gongba toya le geba chame sumza zhengu
According to the traditional Buddhist teachings, the bodhisattvas who have the sharpest faculties, the highest level of aptitude, it takes them 3 incalculable eons, or 3 sets of countless eons, in order to attain full Buddhahood.
디 참에 사데 장가 매베 참에 사데 장가지래 참에서 오랑 장가지 데 지당 장가들이야 단 찍니 주단 다들지도 다 주바디 장가 주바디 빌린사 처럼 베베 장가 찍니 야지윤도 장가 주바디 빌린사 처럼 that maybe 1,000 million. That's a life shan garo. That ne ya ziyun ju sane 장거 주주버도 지야요. 장거 주주버도. 장거 주주버디 면이야 장면서. 그래서 이제 유산다 개와 장면서디 장면디 다 장내 주주디 장면디 바징은 저거 유스래.
So, in the Tibetan way of counting, or in the traditional Buddhist way of counting, countless is actually the name of a number. It's not just a general descriptor meaning a whole lot, but it's actually a reference to a very specific number. So, in the Tibetan counting system, the first level is 1, the second level is 10, the third level is 100, and so forth. So you go all up to the way to the 60th level, and that is the number that is called countless. So if the translator's current mental calculations are correct, he believes that would be 10 to the 59th power, either that or 10 to the 60th power. But in any case, it would be this 60th level of counting, starting with 1, then 10, then 100, then 1,000, and so on. So that is the specific number that is referred to by the word countless here. So the journey from bodhisattvahood to Buddhahood would take 3 countless eons.
That the 참회사디 하자다 제다티 왕부 농부들이래. 지 전주선바야 왕부 뚜부들이나 다대 참회 숨줄라서 봐. 다 된제기 왕부 대래 뚜부들 참회 숨줄라서 된제 고유였어 그래. 근데 인두산에 단도나 전주 모두 봐도 사드 뒤주디 하자르 무지 하대 넘버 3개에 시주는 세나 하자르 무지 자대요.
And then it's said about the bodhisattvas with the lowest level of acumen, or the common levels of acumen, or dullest faculties, that the amount of time that it would take them to achieve Buddhahood would be somewhere around 30 sets of countless eons. So basically, whether it's sharp faculty or ordinary being to Buddhahood takes a very, very long time, according to the traditional Buddhist presentations.
다 되는 디발 다 전주마도 봐 디발 니즈 만담다 마고 요초로 lots of things can happen and then 다 지선 디 마주기 earth 점블링기 첼레 링을 차대요 어디 lots of things can happen and 지 베나 디나로지 밀레게시레 루딘 안다메다 렌스로 루딘 안다메다 렌스레 다가나 신기 지기 딱한달 지 니즈 데 삼기 미겨다 라민자 망부지 용시브레 데리 인두산에 디 균셀데는 데네 전주 마답게 봐도 내 딘데 지기 인사데 모남자데 레라버죠 드라 탐제로 지기 디나 니즈 가르치 연구에 창물로 콩도 추벌 다 창물시 디테일의 현고 말이냐 다 간다를 디기들 삼은지 땅배 토하네 때는 다 줘야 되고로 데 레라버지 저거만.
So since we're talking about an almost inconceivable length of time, it's obvious that many different situations can come to pass in the interim during which we have not attained enlightenment. It's possible that many things could happen to the world or the environment in which we live, and it's possible that we ourselves can take on a wide range of different bodies. Sometimes we might have a human body, during these countless eons for which we haven't attained enlightenment. Sometimes we could take on the support of other bodies in samsara. So an inconceivably wide array of situations could present themselves to us during this very long time that it's going to take for us to attain enlightenment. It's what makes Akshobhya's aspiration and commitment so impressive, because in order to make that commitment, he certainly would have been bearing in mind the length of time that he was making the commitment for, and the wide variety of circumstances that he would be sure to face during this time. And so he would have known that making such a commitment would not be an easy thing. It's no small deal to make a commitment to refrain from any act or intention of aggression towards any sentient being for such a very long time. And so I think, therefore, that his making this commitment is very impressive indeed.
Pena Chanju Sambaji, Tsendila, Chanju to Semgiene. That Tsejima de la Tundu de Vigavage Lamina. Then, Korang Semgie de Chengire da Maresach Kijorda. That Telea, she's with Angoyare. Chanju short the Semgiene, Chanju Semgie de Manyabina, and Tundru Javal. Son the Javalens Marasa. Change some get the mania baina, and son Javalens Marasa. Young Kashi, the Javalens Sibris, they only are stuck under Karin in a minute. Hashua Daji Kashi young Yanson Javal Lambina or Molam Gitobi. Yanji Janshingi Ninji Shawada. Dana Shingi Tundu Kunaya, Ninji Shawada, Energy Chambachawada, Jegi, Baji, you want to use it.
There's different ways of discussing in the traditional Buddhist philosophical investigations the issues of what types of births, what types of physical supports it is possible to take on in one's journey to enlightenment, specifically after the time that one has given rise to the intention of bodhicitta, the wish for awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. There are some schools of thought that say that if after you give rise to bodhicitta, your bodhicitta does not decline, it is impossible for you to take birth in the lower realms. So, for example, as an animal. But there are others who say that it is possible, and they say that even if the bodhisattva takes birth as an animal, they will naturally possess a mind stream that is loving and compassionate, and so forth. So this is connected to the question of whether a bodhisattva would remember all of their births or not.
That eagerly detailed among Shamash. That thing, Mama de Caressa, Tang around Sol, Penang under Jacadu, to do so at the Chumbrasana. Tang Atsu didn't change Mato, the Sadi, that you shall did this Galaha, the get the Yacham. Tang Atsu Pena Tirine son the Mashipado. And controversy somebody means out of the Tamji Chetugo, Rang Tamji 쉐토를 해. 근데 이제 타주 쉐토를 했잖아. That it is not easy. 대양 타나 륜차지라 공부 취미사 근데 지금 담자를 제제 에네 다 타주 제토를 했잖아. 다대 너쇼 다 텔레통을 제나 대린 쇼페네 손도 공다바다가 다 공부 서미 지게래서 공부 서미 샤당가 삼바지 미사 근데 지금 담자지 샤 뉴시라 요마로 experience 요마로 근데 인도 디윤센에 대해 안급 디두스탄다 민주외게 간단히 저주 못하게 봐도 컨트롤 삼바지 미사데 디스 심슈로 진짜 다 코랑아 딘디시 상게 못도 체레스 대다 깔아 가버렸어 다 디서 계셔 디페 가르쳐다 millions of light year 계셔래다 다 이내야 디 이내야 다데 아주 try 체제 드리니 손데 그는 타나야지 니머지 되네 둔자지 되는 나와 되네 로 되네 미지사지 드리지 아주 try 샤데 계속도 삼아지 되지
We don't need to go into a lot of detail about such philosophical investigations regarding different lifetimes, physical supports, and so forth. The main point that we can consider is how we can fit our own aspiration in comparison to the aspiration that Akshobhya made. So it seems that it's not going to be very approachable for us to even consider adopting the same aspiration as Akshobhya, talking about refraining from aggression from now until full enlightenment is attained. That seems a little bit too difficult for us to approach at this time, a little bit too vast. But what about if we were to consider making the aspiration to refrain from, or making a commitment to refrain from aggression from now throughout the rest of our lifetime until we die? I think even that would be quite a difficult promise to make, quite difficult to be decisive about. What about the question of working with 1 week as our time frame and making the commitment that we're not going to engage in any aggression or harbor any anger toward any sentient being for the duration of 1 week? Not so sure if we could make that commitment very decisively. What about the time frame of just 1 day, saying, I'm not going to engage in any aggression from now in the morning until the evening? Well, we don't have much of experience, I don't think, of making a commitment of that nature. So, in any case, we can begin to ask ourselves questions like this, and we can reflect upon the example set forth by Akshobhya and the amazing courage that Akshobhya displayed in making a commitment for what really amounts to millions of light years worth of time. And we don't have to try to immediately make the same commitment that he made, but what we can do is try to see where we can fit our aspiration in terms of working with days at a time, or months at a time, or years, and so forth. We can approach it gradually and see what is possible for us. And I think it's important for us to at least consider this, and then maybe even try.
이나다 근데지 제군도 근데지 총내 아분도 삼바삼시기 대체 도마로 근데 인주사 땅 아주 텁시지 삼당고 텁시지 지 삼단체 아주 뒤 지 타네 try 钱不记得제 톱的米톱 최단으로 체세 되지 아주 특시 단체 치고
Similar to ourselves, it would be good if I could do that, or I should do that. It's not enough to make it actually happen. What we have to do is to actually try, to actually put being capable of.
다 미망부치 삼도 나로라 나바 상게 베게 다지 녀모를 냠부 땡 거래 지기 다나 신기 녀모방 고는 거래 사디 기지들야 고알 렌단담자 망부치 종이게 상도 미망부치 삼도 나로라 녀모를 냠부 땡스도 사나 프레스를 지 수수수 반 nem지 컨트롤 라인 거에나야 도르잡 즉 가르쳐 forceful 드리브제제 바지 전부를 제제 드리지 방 권는 차로 드리게 상당해야 돼요.
I think that people have various different ideas about the Buddhist approach to working with emotions, to working with the mental afflictions. People have the understanding in general that Buddhism promotes the antidotes to certain disturbing emotions. But beyond that, I think that people interpret that situation in various different ways. And some people come to understand this as meaning that we need to force down our emotions, that we need to press them down somehow or suppress them. And I think many people have that misunderstanding.
제가 망부지 녀모 바디 지금 뭐마디 지 자와 들려야지 녀보 때문에 도치 녀모보다 내급 지 녀모바 데스 가르라다지 녀모발에 최토바서므로 녀모발에 유토반도 그치 내급 다 escape 되지 최토비입니다 대점식이 초시에 제대로 그치 대인주산다 가시에 삼려 나로라 빼나 나란데 남바인 제장아 컨트롤하나 대체 원처도 삼바르지다 남바데 컨트롤하는 그 말에 컨트롤하는 원처도 삼바르지지 진짜 또한다 탑시 망부시 당제 다간도 수수기 다지 컨트롤데 밀라래 내급 되라 다지 마지 전부로 치지 다주 베베기 가베죠 담베죠 다데 가라서나 코네 멤버는 칸에 도와마디 치고라서 기죠 다디 기전으로 찍고 사 그래서 코베 나라 콘트롤사는 멤버용 거라서 이내 칸에 다 매들 도와용으로 와 매라 도와용으로 내 칸에 도와 미용야 탑시 있다네 되네 가져야지 가서 코바 멤버는 넘줄때 야 본다고 지대야 매주시하러 근데 용으로 와 그래서 디스어로 지나 디 님보 때나 엄마 지제면도 다는 신기 디 not in healthy way 지 healthy 시라면 믿듯이 들으시 통고요.
Another approach that seems to be mistaken in terms of relating with the mental afflictions is to not address the root causes of our mental afflictions, but instead try to apply antidotes from time to time during the times that they are the most strongest. And in this way, try to escape from the mental afflictions during the times when they become intense, but not really addressing their root causes, and just being satisfied with only addressing methods to relate to the mental afflictions when they're arising in their strongest fashion. This also seems to be a mistaken approach. So, in brief, some Buddhists have the attitude not a very Buddhist thing to be angry, and I'm a Buddhist, and therefore I shouldn't be angry. It's embarrassing and shameful for me to be angry, so I shouldn't be angry at all. And then when the time comes that they actually feel anger, they try to suppress it in a forceful way, to basically force it down so that it won't rear its head. But in relation to that, there is a Tibetan proverb that says, if a fire is burning in your belly, smoke will come out your mouth. Or if a fire is burning in your belly, you can't stop smoke from coming out your mouth. So if there's anger actually happening inside you, it's not much to just force that anger down or suppress it and pretend that nothing bad is happening, pretend that nothing uncomfortable is going on, and everything is fine and pleasant. It's not a very healthy way to relate to our emotions.
Und dann presst man die Lippen aufeinander und legt sich ein zwanghaftes Lächeln in das Gesicht und versucht so, den Ärger nicht zu zeigen. Das scheint mir ein etwas ungesundes Umgehen mit Gefühlen zu sein. Es fühlt sich irgendwie sehr, sehr ungesund an. Und es ist nicht das echte Gegenanwenden von Gegenwirkung. Wenn man von Gegenwirkung wird, das ist es nicht.
这里 sim 呢，这 improve 用啊 sim 呢做到 sim 了的这手指眼的举止的，真的是用不了。这您写他吧呢，您他吧呢，这抓接下去的，您他吧呢这糖豆上吧，糖豆浪呗上吧，enjoy joyful 什么的，那就这个了。按当然是个作为上吧，那就说是什么的就 move 这边去，那就全部呢，那心呢有啊，动作的，就是动作的什么程度，是什么的就从哪全部这些，就他说的心具什么的啊，我觉得是太呢，心具里面呢，那心呢。有动作的什么程度？第什么呢？觉就是身骨嘛特别切，什么呢？觉就是嘛特别切，什么呢？他就照样上班到这样，养了这volunteer 这个上班到去，嘛这边呢？但呢，有当然的是干了好不是？就 forceful 的。这个当然性的这全部完全呢，就要当然当然性的这个古巴物主钱的这物主钱啊，当然性的的呢这个咱们的方面呢的团结的就要当然的，好不了什么程度。
I think what's really required to develop a healthy approach to relating to our disturbing emotions is a sense of willingness and even enthusiasm towards relating to our minds and emotions in an honest way. If we can cultivate some sense of enthusiasm, willingness, and even delight toward relating with our emotions as they are, and as they arise, some sense of being moved by an inspiration to relate with ourselves in this way, then we'll definitely have a chance to make a genuine positive transformation in our hearts and minds. But if that genuine feeling of inspiration or enthusiasm is not there, then we're not going to be taking a voluntary approach, really, to working with transforming our emotions, but rather we're going to be trying to force ourselves to do something different. We're going to be forcing something on ourselves, and I don't think in the long term that will work. So therefore, having a sense of inspiration and willingness is very important.
Ein stumpfsinniges Bemühen, das kann nicht zu einem echten Wandel beitragen.
근데 유아 제가 다 건드시는 생기들 예 민주배다 좀 전에 민주배다 고랑기 전주도 투기에 걸려야 면람 첨부 다들 남야지 콘룸 이외 면람 답에 인두선 델대지 알아내네 중세다 파자 세난다 지 지름도 중어로 지들지 우지도 슈도 슈예 안드레 인두산에 대균산 때네 안에 가르 문준 상계기 남달 진주 뒤제 냠래 사와나 신기 지 상계기에 딱 가르 넘버 타밤 코랑긴 제버로디 다 당아 야슈디 다 대인사 문질라마 상계다 지 기부 담반 남지 넘버 타바다 제버칠레디죠 나라 저기 지 로정 쳐서 야슈를 지 가라서 당아 배토를 지샤바 이토를 지샤바데 다 당아디 초진 자침브레디 이네한테 데 다 이게 더 차대요. 이내다 고랑 제버치 구진 나노르베 냠솔 랑네 마지 남타르텐 샤바디 당아 솜바르디 리빙 르지 당아르 지 문에 전에 솜바르다 디차대요. 제 된 디술량 아주기 롭종 체세나 다도 인지미쟁 아주 100% copy check 어떻게 아마리나 디게 소다지 닝도 심슈다 encourage다 다는 신기지기 니 심슈다 닝도데 대줄량 아주 롭종 체세 아주 이네지 수랑그랑네 디스 지 가셔 디스 자와르지 체스 겹체 랑라를 심슈 바라고 하데 개첨버려 주제서 뭐
So in any case, I feel very inspired personally by the motivation that was given rise to by Akshobhya, the motivation and the pledge that he made not to engage the klesha of anger, not to hold on to any angry intention or express any angry action toward any sentient being from now until the time that he attained enlightenment, or from then until the time he attained full enlightenment. I feel that this example has been instructive to me and has planted some beneficial habitual seeds in my mind stream. Really, I feel that the best instructions that we can study are the instructions that are the living examples of the past masters, the Buddhas, and the followers of the Buddhas of the past. I think that the life examples are really the most important thing for us to study. The actions actual deeds that these masters performed. The instructions that are written down on paper are very good, but at the end of the day, they're just letters. The actual deeds that the masters have performed are the real living, breathing teaching, the real alive quality of the teaching. So therefore, they are, in my opinion, the most important thing for us to study, the actual deeds that the past Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and great masters have performed. We don't have to copy them 100%, but we should consult them, learn about them, and allow them to inspire us, allow them to become a catalyst for us to encourage ourselves further, to bring more hope into our mind, and to try to fuel our positive motivations by referring to their examples.
다단도 가만히 휴시하면로다. 지금 주 체가스. 나 가만히 휴시하면 단도 가만히 휴시하나. 다 완전 고조 되시라자. 가만히 휴시하긴. 주주 제가 시나 나란히 갈라 가보도다. 맛이 주주 체가래. 당에 가만히 휴시하나 저랑 가만히 휴시해야 돼. 단주도 어디 단주고 찍어 다드네 제zan도나 시랑 삼바 미게야디 개좀 차디야래 가르사나 심제 탐제 지 대화는 된데 이 참바사야 돼 참베셈 다 참베셈기 도전으로부터 콘트리 삼바르디 이제 심지는 체외기 삼바디 심지는 뇌 삼바르도 차대요래 제상 양 민주벌이야 양 코랑기 개주 삼바르 개주지 가르스나 지당 그 상계 민주바디 주 주규 담바제는 든지래샤 주베고이 남바지 니마나가에 폼 제상 지당 주베 남바제 민주사네 지 상계 주베고 디게 ane zeba chungi sa zeba ta Quran ji jube ku yinan Quran ki mise zeba chungi sa ten ji de ji dengi yebe ji ga zu xie ya de na ba sang ge zu xie ya de ta zeba chungi na ne ji de du ya de du ya de yina min chu ba la du bien zeba de 배치를 위해서 말해. 디 준센의 가라서는 호랑 상계 미루바 상계에서 디 원버가वे 신감라 상계브래. 이나 콩기다지 전주초도 투기반에 손데 상마기 봐도 지 컨트롤에 삼바 지게 마기베 인두산 디딩 디 뉴베 떡기 상계에 걸려야한테 차와 칭해놓지 두 바로도 줘버려 이렇게 매워지 근데 이제 돈에 그 두두엔 잡아 되면고 그렇지 근데 이제서
The intention to refrain from aggression toward sentient beings is very important. And it's important because it is the antithesis of the mind of love towards sentient beings. The mind of love towards sentient beings is the mind that wishes for sentient beings to possess happiness, to enjoy happiness, to be happy. And the mind of aggression is the mind that wishes to harm sentient beings. In Akshobhya's case, he is considered to be a Nirmanakaya Buddha, a Buddha appearing in the form of the Nirmanakaya. And as Buddhist tradition clearly states, all Nirmanakaya Buddhas must display the 12 enlightened deeds. So as we know of this famous set of deeds of the Buddha called the 12 deeds of the Buddha, it's the same, according to Buddhist teaching, for all Nirmanakaya Buddhas. One of these 12 deeds is taming the maras, or taming all hindering forces. However, the special feature of Akshobhya in his being a Nirmanakaya Buddha is that it seems that he did not perform this deed of taming the maras. The reason is because he did not need to perform it because there were no maras causing him hindrances. And this in turn is because of his aspiration. So the place that he achieved Buddhahood in was the Abhirati pure realm, the pure realm of true joy in the East, as we discussed previously. But throughout all of his journey from being a bodhisattva up until attaining full Buddhahood, he kept to his intention and pledge of not having any aggression toward any sentient being. And because of the interdependence of that intention and conduct, the karmic result of that was that no beings came to him to try to do him harm, and no maras tried to interfere with his conduct, and therefore there was no need for him to perform the deed of taming the maras.
Pache ti nima de du is leona le yumar. It's not an office. Maybe they're off. Taina that the rangi nan semgi da nyomoba ji shedan da control samba chizam ji number 7 renshinji dadam ji chizam ma yebin diziji and chirugi dula sabega no to ban rosi. No to bam no number to share. Rangi she nangi semgi energy control sambadang shidang sambading chizamji 가져에 나 시와 대zam시기 치르기 다주기 체외 남바드즈에나 매워자 다드린 유산에 대균산을 되네 저 두상 엄마디 두기 체와요 아디야 조다지 랑게 녀모부터 라래 대르죠 그렇지.
So it seems that the Maras were not in the office at the time of the journey of Akshobhya, or at the time of the Akshobhya's life as a Buddha. So the relationship between kleshas and maras is one in which, to the degree that kleshas and especially anger are present in our mind, to that same degree will the harm of maras be present. And conversely, to the degree that our minds have pacified the klesha of anger, to that degree will we become free from the harm and interference of maras. So therefore, in the final analysis, we can say that the real mara is the kleshas in our own mind, the disturbing emotions in our own mind.
You always no chance to get the water. Need more water? I can be your service. Maybe we should need German beer. Non. Then nga zhe dan sem ge naro da ji nam ju ji a dark side of me and that good side of ni yu ye so ka du ne ya je zhe nam ju ji nga zhe ji Spider-Man ma wa de da ba sha do ba je zang ka du ne ji dark side of ji da good side of ni yu yin ju sa ne and ji nga zhe sem de ji cham cham de tuzu ma she de dark side of de le ya chin che yin 탁 주 energy 땐 비슷한 매대 버는지 거리 제스도 딱 그 뒤에 지 dark side of the 슈크샤로 지다 코란 넘버 개버지 코란 개간도디 되지 dark side of the 지 치르기 나저기 밀레바디 치르기 지버든데 지버지 치르 outside somewhere 유나 땅 아주 레바디 하고도 reaction which could the energy magic band the tiger and the singing of the dune leona as lamsa reaction which one as per yinayang ta jigbodin dune meche ana in leondos dawa jende leonsasana as ratagmaro another yana dendro chen da gandar jigbodin dune 아주 reaction letter 가 하고 싶다고. 그래서 이 균센데는 아주 바유 전시 awareness 거야데 계십시다. 자. 그러면 레벨 reaction 앞서 치고 말아.
So the way that our minds work usually is that you could say that there's kind of a dark side of our mind and kind of a good side of our mind. I guess it's kind of like the red Spider-Man and black Spider-Man. And usually we spend time, you could say, on or in the dark side of our mind. And sometimes we empower good qualities in our mind, but it's not so sure which side is going to be dominant. It's not a definite bet, and due to this, often the darker qualities in our mind prevail. But part of why this happens is because there's no external stimulus to inspire fear about what happens if the negative qualities of the mind are allowed to prevail. And some type of external stimulus is often what kicks in a reaction to move away from that which will produce negative results. For example, in terms of working with our brain and noticing when our brain kicks into reactive mode, then we can see that if there's an external imminent fear that is present or an external imminent danger that is present, there will be an immediate reaction. For example, if there was a tiger or a lion that appeared in person directly before us, then there'd be a very strong reaction, and we would try to run to escape from it or do something to try to save ourselves and what have you. So we we would immediately kick into gear at that point and try to take some type of corrective measures. But on the other hand, if a tiger or lion to be here in 1 month, then maybe thinking of the situation will be a little bit concerning, but it's not going to make you engage in some immediate reaction on the spot. And so it would be difficult to motivate some correction just based on that knowledge. So when it comes to working with our mind, it's therefore very important for us to rely on the qualities of heedfulness, mindfulness, attentiveness, and awareness.
这个是经济术中的 disaster 往不下来，变成是蒙住穷的。我第三就，龙妈帮我去的蒙住中心不的 disaster，迷茫我去了，他刚才吃不吃这样的了。当然，现在那样来说吧，那样咱们的这个那样的穷些，这边的一波人都这个那样的穷些，这个当然，这个 disaster 全部就用了。但第一的 disaster 上面的起落呢，最用的都是不是下的了。但是呢 ，disaster 这个可能用过的啥，起落呢最用还没有去，难的最啊，就生个难的最，可理解些。但这个是呢，我说这。这位上不明白，这现在这 sympathy， 就现在 empathy 就明白起，现在这位上不明白，这 control 上吧，拉说吧，但第一点，这位上不明白，可能 disaster 这个程度啊，那第一套就 control 上不拉说吧，但的确就是，第一个这个的，可能是呢，七轮只用过嘛的，哪轮用的了，但的。第几个的每个同样给没有去，一呢我可理用的个的，接着的原则的呢，我就参考了人性的，我的语呢的participant 切的下去，这个的了，这里面就是啥呢？的原则的呢，就。아주 저 awareness로 찍고 해야 돼. 개좀 시다. 봐요 진짜 된 거다. 개좀.
There are many disasters in the world that are very fearful and frightening. Many parts of the world are afflicted by warfare. Many parts of the world are afflicted by natural disasters. Many parts of the world are and have been afflicted by epidemics and various diseases, such as the very severe problem of Ebola that we witnessed in recent times. And all of these types of problems, more or less, arise from the outside world or in the context of things that are happening in the outside world. But there's another type of disaster, and that is the disaster that rises from the inside, a disaster that arises from within. That disaster is the absence of love, the failure to cultivate love in our minds, the failure to ensure the presence of love in our minds. When love becomes absent from our minds, then anger has an opportunity to be present. And that is a true disaster. And it doesn't arise from the outside, it arises from the inside. So this is a very frightening situation when this disaster happens, and we can become participants in the creation of this disaster in direct ways and indirect ways. And for this reason, it's very important for us to rely on awareness, to rely on heedfulness, mindfulness, and attentiveness.
Hier wäre es ganz wichtig, dass wir solche inneren Schrecken gegenüber eine Bewusstheit, ein Gewahrsein entfalten, das mitbekommt, wenn sich eine solche Katastrophe anbahnt und einschleicht.
现在做出来你的对可对恰样还我们的，恰才这其他了。等于三的，等于大家呢搞出来这对下的呀，是这个光的去把能行给大看的，这还有这些点呢，啊这让了呀，就搞出来，他老什么大看的，是不是给我的给什么意思了？大马为啥学什么的？
So one never knows when maras are going to arise. One never knows when hindering forces are going to arise. And after the maras have afflicted their harm, then it's too late for us to do something about it. So therefore it's important for us to rely on heedfulness and attentiveness, and it's important to inspire ourselves to do so.
Könnte man sagen, ein Gewahrsein. Und dafür, denke ich, braucht es einen ganz starken Entschluss, einen Herzensentschluss, den wir fassen. Auch vielleicht soll ich da jetzt gar nicht so viel reden.
大家说你民主国家这些民主。
Tomorrow, the empowerment of Akshobhya will be given.
大家 conform 前呢，你不是点点说的，啊，看上的，这是的忘的 ，somehow disappeared. 这人就是啥呢？他这人安个 conform 起。
And I'm happy to confirm once again today, for the second time, that the empowerment is a sure thing, that it will happen. It's not going to be like the Chenrezik empowerment, which somehow disappeared.
I'm looking for some funny things. Wondering. Oh no, nothing. Oh, didn't you that? 제가 남준 비게 도시대리아 아주 민주배다 retreat를 들으셔야 디 제베걸이야 아니 민주배지 왕도 체제 아니디 지겨래 안드레인 주산에 다 조조디 가르쳐던 주변의 신기 encourage which 다 참참 지 similar 지 좋아해야 지 similar 구교태르디 지야 규겐담들 된지 구교태르 정도가 안타서 질 라마다 이담라서 된제기 되지 실럽스란다도 안 된제기 지 투지다 랑게 지 대배 더블 때네 는 구교태르다 안 가시 지 뭐지 심진 지 파마 심진 남기 따지 고란수에게 지 양자와라 소다 딘들 댄셰 지 디즈거진의 댄셰 안티 심르 비교태 알지 드라마를 좋아한데도 근데 루치잖아 지 심르야 대리간 지 심르야지 구여를 태우치 근데가 또 안에 다 가져야지 좋아지 라지 단 좋아지 라지 고 숙토야 알지 데리지 용도를 삼배 라이스다 데리 와야
The usual procedure that we follow in Bodh Gaya is that we do an Akshobhya retreat, and in the context of this retreat, we give the Akshobhya empowerment. In any case, I think the main point, as I mentioned before, is encouragement and finding a way to encourage ourselves and give rise to enthusiasm and delight and inspiration in our mind. And inspiration and delight can be found through many different causes and conditions. There's some times in which we feel that we have received blessings from our gurus or our practice of a yidam deity, that we feel we have been the recipients of enlightened compassion in this way, and that might cause us to feel faith and inspiration. At other times, we might feel that we have been the recipients of the kindness of our mother and father sentient beings, and due to that, some type of shift in our heart occurs. So it is my wish and through this program this weekend, through these teachings and empowerment, that you yourselves will be able to find some inspiration and some basis for finding encouragement within yourself that will then in turn become the beginning of making a positive change.
Wie alle Lebewesen dieser Welt einstmals und für Lebzeiten so gütigen Mütter und Väter gewesen sind. Und wenn wir uns an diese tiefe Güte und die viele Entfaltung erinnern, dass dann eine große, tiefe innere Dankbarkeit entsteht und